Hey, CZ.
Hi, Tina. How are you?
I'm really good. Thanks so much for joining us. So this is twice in a month that you've joined the UK community. So we're super excited to see you a bit more over here. Paul's quite modest. Coinscrum is really the original OG Bitcoin meetup in the UK. And the community is really deep. So I know they're quite excited. I've had a lot of people, texting me and getting in touch saying they're really looking forward to today. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks to Paul as well. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's kick off. I've tried to try and ask you some questions that maybe you don't get asked. Hopefully, they're not the same old boring thing. So let's go. So I read a Medium post a couple years ago that was really, really succinct and described the 5 camps of crypto. It was written by a woman named Casey Caruso. And Casey described these 5 camps as the sound money camp, the payments camp, the open finance camp, DLT camp, and the Web3 camp. So, kind of the different people that get into blockchain or crypto. And over my career, I've visited most of these camps, but for me, really the open finance camp is where I see the most opportunity. I got into crypto because I wanted to be part of this evolution of money, right? And so I think, we both started our careers in traditional finance, and we both find ourselves in crypto today. And I know your vision has been to increase the freedom of money globally. And to significantly improve the lives of people around the world. So I'd like you to tell us a bit more about how you put this vision into action. And would it be fair to say that you're attempting to bring together an ecosystem that spans across all the camps of crypto?
Sure. I think looking back, it feels like we started to build an ecosystem. But to be honest, the ecosystem is more the result. I think when we first started out, I personally got into crypto probably because of the a better money camp. Like it's just a better form of money.
Yeah.
And then when I said, well, I'm gonna dedicate my career into this new industry, I try to figure out what do I know best, and I spent my whole life building exchange systems. So that's kind of the natural thing to do. So when we first started, we were really just trying to build a exchange. So that was like very singular focused. Mm-hmm. And once we built a crypto exchange, we didn't even have fiat service back then. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, what other people just ask for more and more features? What other things can we do? Can we do gas distributions? Can we do staking? Can we do more and more? Can we do mining? So all of these things were asked from our users. So we kind of slowly expanded our business based on user feedback. So it's not so much we set out to do a sort of ecosystem. So I think we just focused on building products we know how to build and we think people will love. So once we build a product, we try to make people see people use it. If people don't use it, then we stop it. Yeah. And we reiterate. And also with the success of Binance, we got quite a bit of I would say cash on our hands, and we were able to grow. And the way to grow is either hire more people or merge with other teams or acquire other teams. So we've done a few acquisitions. And acquisitions are good that the team comes with a product or even with users sometimes. So in many cases, we acquired products where I'm not an expert in. Like CMC, I'm not an expert in like running a data website, for example. So over the course of the acquisitions, we now have an ecosystem. But it wasn't sort of we want to build an ecosystem from the beginning. It was more of the natural evolution of things.
Incredible. Okay. Yeah, and I know that we'll get into how you feel about the users a little later in our discussion. But I think that's what I've experienced as a real driving force is ensuring that we're responding to user feedback. So it's interesting to hear that the evolution of the features that we offer actually come from the users.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every feature, every new business was basically asked to us by users. So even for the more recent one, like the mining pool, people were saying that, well, I trade on futures, but I got to mine somewhere else. I can't really do the leverage that well. If you provided a mining pool, have a single account that has the mining and the futures products in there, then they can do hedging much easier. So well, that makes sense. Let's see if we can find somebody who knows how to do a mining pool. Okay. And one of our team members, she raised her hand, and she did a really good job, and we launched the mining pool. So that's kind of how we evolved. If you ask me, like even a year ago, when are we going to do a mining pool? I would say I don't know. It's not on the plan. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so for me, prior to joining the company, one of the things I knew about Binance was its incredible track record of continually developing new services and bringing them to market, both successfully and rapidly, right? So it's one thing to do it fast, it's another thing to do it well. Binance does both, which I think is pretty incredible. You're known for your commitment to building, and I think this is really reflected in our mission to provide the core infrastructure services for organizing the world's crypto. And, as missions go, that sounds pretty cool, right? But what does it actually mean to you personally? And how does it manifest in Binance's strategy and its execution?
Sure. I think initially what we wanted to do is just to allow people to get crypto, right? So basically, if people want to buy crypto, they can get it. So what I call that access to liquidity. So basically, if you want to buy, sell, trade, use fiat to buy, etc. Initially, we only did crypto to crypto. So we were allowing people who already have Bitcoin to buy like other coins. But now we figured out, okay, we also need to bring the fiat guys in. So we're adding fiat. So that was the original sort of scope or mission. And then and after that, we felt, well, we're just an exchange. We're just providing liquidity. There's more we can do. We can provide access to information. So that's why we did Binance Info, Binance Research, Binance Academy, which is an educational platform, and the more recent merger with CoinMarketCap. So all of those, in my mind, are sort of access to information which we're building. So we want to do both. So that's kind of what kind of infrastructure services we want to provide. And on the trading side, of course, we're now more sophisticated than much more than just a crypto to crypto or a fiat to crypto spot exchange, like futures, options, margin trading, etc. And we also offer additional services like lending, loans, savings, etc. So I think all of that sort of came naturally together behind the sort of what we call our mission, which is to provide the infrastructure services in this new industry. So and in the future, I think we want to also provide more financial access. So basically, like things like DeFi. Right now, there's still a large number of people around the world who do not have access to financial products or financial services. So we want to be able to provide that through crypto, or at least provide the crypto financial services to them in the future. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really surprised to learn the number changes a little bit, every quarter when they do an assessment, but, somewhere between 1.3 and 1.7 million people in the UK don't have a bank account for a variety of reasons. These are adults over 18. And I think when you think of, Western countries like the US or the UK, that, seems absurd, but there are still a lot of people that don't have either access to financial services or they don't have the access to breadth of financial services. So you mentioned savings and staking. And I think one of the opportunities I see, and I'd love to hear your view on if you're seeing it in practice, but by offering those other types of investment opportunities that potentially are lower risk, then you're always going to have people that want the futures and the options, high octane access. And then, does offering products within the suite that are a little more passive to save and stack sats, etc. It feels like we're able to offer a wider range of services for a wider range of people and getting more people then into the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me personally, I always only encourage people to buy and hold. I almost actually never encourage people to trade too often, because for most people, that's the right strategy. And for the guys who wants to trade more often, for the professional traders, they know themselves. They will trade more often. That's their business, and that's our core sort of high frequency users. They know their business. But for most people, because this space is quite new, we have multiple levels of users. There are many users who just want to buy crypto, who just want to buy Bitcoin or BNB and hold it. And I encourage them to do that. And we want to provide access to those guys. I actually didn't know that there are millions of people in the UK without bank accounts.
Yeah.
When I was saying that, I was more referring to like Africa and other sort of less developed economies. So I actually didn't know that. But regardless, crypto does not have any borders. So we're here to provide access, and we're very happy to be able to provide more localized service in the UK very soon.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute too. So you've been described, I've heard you described many times as a serial entrepreneur, and Binance has indeed experienced some very rapid and impressive growth. And I've heard you discuss how you got into blockchain. So, people ask you, you've told the story before. But I'd like you to tell us the moment, like the aha moment when, the clouds opened and the birds sang and you knew that you wanted to found Binance.
There was a couple of different moments there, but the memory is very clear. But I'll backtrack a little bit further. The crypto exchange is not a new idea. So when in 2013, when I first kind of got into sort of Bitcoin industry, there was discussions about running a crypto-to-crypto exchange. But the industry was so small back then. The industry was a Bitcoin industry back then.
Right.
In 2015, we revisited the idea again, but still at that time, Poloniex was already around. Bittrex, I'm not too sure. Even if they are, they'll be quite small. So even Poloniex was quite small. We felt, it's still too early. 2017, there's a couple of instances that led to the idea. The idea was brought to me again in 2017. The ICOs are just starting in March, right? So and it was getting pretty hot. And I met with the founder of Neo. Back then it was called Antcoin. So I met with that Hongfei for dinner in Shanghai, and I said, "Well, I'm thinking about doing a crypto-to-crypto exchange. What do you think?" And he just immediately said, "Look, you should do it, and I'm going to invest." And he said, "Well, he wants to invest in us and back us." I was like, "Wow, that's a pretty strong endorsement." I've known him for like a few years then already. And so that was like one trigger. And so that was end of May. So that was May 29th or 30th-ish. And then on June 1st to June 10th, there was another ICO running in China. And that ICO was ran by the co-founder of BTC China. He left BTC China and was doing another project. So in 10 days, he was able to raise $15 million equivalent in crypto. And that's the biggest ICO in China by then. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, well, if he could do it, I probably could as well. He's quite well known in the Chinese crypto industry. But he's not very well known outside of China, whereas I'm relatively known in China and also have some exposure outside of China. So if he can do it, I probably could as well. So and then there was the very historic movement of June 14th. I went to Chengdu to a potluck dinner. There was a Bitcoin conference or blockchain conference in Chengdu, and at night, Chandler Guo, who now lives in the U.S. now. He's kind of a big KOL in the Chinese circle as well. Yeah. He hosted a potluck dinner with 500 people. He spent 2 Bitcoins on it. And everyone's talking about ICOs. Everyone's like, you should do an ICO, you should do an ICO, you should do an ICO. So I met with a bunch of the OG gang. And so that night I called my team, say, okay, we're going to do an ICO. And nobody on my team knows what an ICO means. Right? So there's Google the word, and we're going to write a white paper. And so that was the day. So there was a couple of events leading to that. So that's the time when we said, okay, we're going to launch. Number one, we're going to run a crypto-to-crypto exchange. It's going to be called Binance. We picked the name already, and we're also going to do an ICO. So that was within that 2 weeks. So that was like end of May to mid of June. And from mid of June, we started writing a white paper. By June 17th, we published the white paper, the first version. We did a private sale by June 20th and ran the first ICO session on June 24th. And by July 2nd, we closed everything, raised $15 million equivalent in BTC and ETH. And then 2 weeks later, we launched the exchange. So on July 14th. So that was that whole that's the most compressed, really like no sleep to like a month in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. That sounds wild. One of the things that strikes me about that story is, when I speak to regulators and government officials about, they'll often say, give us a use case for crypto. Tell us how crypto helps people practically, give us an example. And interestingly, last year when the FCA came out with their crypto asset guidelines, one of the things that they did say was that they see that the ICO model in and of itself actually has a lot of value additive properties around capital raising, and that the route to the journey from getting the money in and building the thing can be accelerated. We've seen some companies that potentially have undertaken an ICO, probably in very good faith, and then ended up with all this money and then didn't really have a plan or couldn't necessarily execute on it, or maybe their idea was a bit flawed. And in traditional VC, you would have advisors, right, to kind of help you pivot. So I think there's something really magical and powerful about having the ability to raise money if people really believe in your idea, but then executing on it. And Binance did, and some other people didn't. So, there's nothing inherently wrong with the ICO model, but you do have to know what you're doing, right? And you do have to have people in your team that know how to execute, because otherwise you're going to end up with an awful lot of money that you might not be able to spend super effectively.
I think having gone through that experience myself, I totally think that ICOs or blockchain fundraising in general is a super useful tool that we have now. So blockchain fundraising allows us to raise money from people all over the world. So that has helped companies like Binance to grow very quickly. There are plus and minuses versus a traditional VC investor. For example, if we were dealing with a traditional VC investor, Binance would be much, much slower in growth. It would take us, 3-6 months to raise a round, and then grow some, and then raise another round, etc. There are other limitations as well. Having a VC typically will have to have much heavier legal infrastructure, etc., localized in one region. We will not be able to grow in a more internationalized global exchange. So there's a lot of differences there. But again, there are risks. Even in the traditional VC world, most startups fail, right? So even if the team's totally well-intentioned, the team's experienced, skilled, they still fail. And Binance, we got lucky. We could have failed 1,000 times. So we got lucky. We had a strong team, obviously, but we were also lucky in a lot of areas. So people have to realize that those kind of inherent risks. So there's the concept of accredited investors and non-accredited investors in some countries. But I think more importantly, we just got to educate people so that they understand the risks of investing in a blockchain entity or business or organization. So there are those type of risks. Yeah. Also, something very different is when you invest in a blockchain coin or token or project, there's always liquidity. So even though you may be crashing, you can get out very quickly. Whereas traditional companies, if you invest, until the company goes public, there's not a whole lot of liquidity. Yeah. So there's a lot of differences, but I do think that having this new tool is super useful to, I think, all the entrepreneurs in the world. The strong entrepreneurs will be able to use this tool to do some really good, interesting projects. Yeah. Elaborating on this a little bit more, I also think that if the crypto blockchain industry gets a bit bigger, we can fund much bigger projects. So we should be the entire human race should be funding projects going to Mars. So right now, Elon Musk's working really hard to raise money, billions and billions of money privately. But that should be a project where he should be able to raise on the blockchain and have people around the world participate on that. Yeah. And some biotech projects under curing diseases, the COVID-19 vaccines, all of those projects could be funded on the blockchain as well. So there's some really interesting dynamics we haven't really explored because the industry is too small. But I think as more and more people come in, the industry will get bigger. So some of those things are really interesting as well.
Well, you raise an interesting point about, the ability to raise capital globally, and coupling that with global good, right? So it could be initiatives like, remember when Bill Gates was trying to build those toilets that didn't need water in Africa, right? So that, because they couldn't put the plumbing in, or things around climate change that we could fund, that are going to cost a lot of money, and to put that burden on any one or a small group of governments to be able to fund that. So if you're impassioned about an issue that affects global good, then you would be able to contribute to that. I think what the challenge is, when anything is new and we're still in that nascent phase, I used to say that we're not an infant anymore, we're toddlers, right? Crypto is in the toddler stage, and people expect toddlers to be able to sit still and not scream and act crazy, right? There's not for a long time, but for a period of time. So we need to grow up a little bit. And so I wonder if there's reputational impact that happens when something is growing and it's finding its way, that potentially prevents people from seeing those big opportunities to actually change the world. And I agree with you. I think they're there. But, when we see news like, the Wirecard incident, that's traditional finance, but crypto's thrown in there, right? And then, we get this blowback. So I think that those big life-changing projects were small, but how does the reputational blowback affect people getting involved in those projects?
Yeah, I think, anytime something negative happens with any financial thing related, crypto gets the blame, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen that a lot. But I think the narrative is really changing nowadays. 2 years ago, people still talk about Bitcoin owners as drug lords. So I think nowadays, things in the last 2 years or 2 or 3 years, things have already changed really much for the better. We have central banks issuing digital currencies. We have countries pushing for blockchain education. So now we've already gone a long way, but the industry is still very nascent. We have teenager kids fighting, project founders fighting each other like teenagers, right? So we have a lot of really sort of. And also, I think more fundamentally is we don't have enough applications being built that people actually use on a day-to-day basis in a secure manner. So we're still missing a lot of those. But cryptocurrency blockchain is a really tough technology for normal people to use. Just to be able to secure your private key with secure backups so that you don't lose and all of these things. It's just really hard. So I think the adoption curve will be a little bit steeper at the beginning, which we're still going through. But I mean, even if you look at the traditional internet, by 99 or even 2000, e-commerce is not that great. Video conferencing wasn't that great. So all of those things only came through in the last 10 years or so. So that's the sort of 20 to 30 years time span. So we'll see. I think but I think right now things are definitely moving in a positive direction. We see a lot of adoption now. We see PayPal coming into crypto now, so that's a big player. So all of those things are really, really positive for this industry. So I think things will pan out pretty well, I think.
Okay. Okay, so let's shift a little bit to kind of markets. You've spoken recently about what it takes to grow a truly global international company, and your views on thinking globally but executing locally. So, the global approach. In just 3 years, in addition to the huge growth on Binance.com, you've launched several affiliate and partner marketplaces across the world, from places like Singapore to Jersey and Korea to the US. What were some of the unique lessons that you learned from each country? And does expansion get easier with each new product or project?
Okay, I'll answer the last one first. You see, it's an easier answer, but the answer is that it doesn't get easier. It stays equally difficult as we expand. I think we do learn a lot of lessons, but anytime it gets easier, we just push faster. So, and the team's growing in size. So with the larger teams, it'll be harder to coordinate. We do have a lot of lessons we've learned with the sort of what we call the OG team or the team, people who've been with us a bit longer. But every time we establish a new exchange in a new territory with a new partner, there's a lot of lessons. And the key lesson we learn is in order to go global, we really have to go local. So we really have to have a local team who understands the local culture, the local business, the local regulations, have relationships with local policymakers, etc. Yeah. Every place is different. The US is like very heavily regulated, lots of different regulatory bodies, lots of different rules. Asia is a little bit different. Europeans have like different regions. Like Europe has a lot of countries. There's a union. Currency is very free flowing across countries. So everywhere the atmosphere is a little bit different. So what we learned is actually we really just have to go local and learn. We have to go there and learn the local culture and the local atmosphere. And it's best to have the local team. So, and having the local team getting adopted into our existing sort of Binance team, finding a local team that shares our vision, our mission, our culture, and being able to execute, collaborate together. There's always, it takes time. Mm-hmm. So there's always a lot of stuff to do, but it's very meaningful to do. Like when things work, they work well. And when sometimes things don't work and we just gotta fix it. So, but overall, it's a very challenging and also very rewarding experience. But we're still at the beginning of the learning curve. We only have a few countries so far, and we're about to learn more about UK. So UK is maybe a little bit easier, maybe, but because number one, English, number two, UK is a fairly developed economy, mm-hmm. But we'll see. I think you'll still be a challenge.
I was hoping you were going to tell me it was going to be a breeze. It was just going to be smooth sailing.
No.
No. Okay, good to know. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 years ago, Laura Shin asked you to compare and contrast the crypto market in Asia and the West. And that whole interview was really great. I encourage people to listen to it, even though it is a couple years old. But it was a really good interview, CZ. But that question, I think, was really interesting then. And so I'd like to know what's changed in the last 2 years. How's the world view of the crypto market evolved?
Okay, I think in terms of culture differences between sort of U.S. East to West, probably not so much have changed. But in terms of regulations or the view on crypto, I think a lot have changed in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I think U.S. right now, there's probably more or less a clear way to do things. There's a big exchange, Coinbase, running in the U.S., and they have a certain set of licenses. They have a certain way of doing things, which are more or less viewed as the accepted way of doing things. Mm-hmm. And they haven't got into a lot of trouble. So this sort of like a recipe on doing things. Mm-hmm. And the regulators kind of have a sort of even though only New York has a BIT license, but most other states use either a MTO license or the FinCEN registration. Yeah. So there's a way to do it. Whereas in China or Asian country, Asia is a little bit different. Asia, there's one big China, and there's a few other small players which are also financially developed, like Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, Taiwan, Japan. So they're all developed financially. Mm-hmm. China has, for the last 2 years, also has been negative on exchanges and Bitcoin, but they did a 180-degree turn on blockchain. So they're pushing blockchain very, very hard, and they're accepting blockchain, encouraging blockchain education, and they're pushing a decentralized digital currency, so the DCEP. Mm-hmm. So that's all positive. In terms of regulations around, and Singapore is very open towards fintech innovation. So by default, they're relatively friendly towards blockchain technology companies or even Bitcoin businesses. EU is a little bit different as well. So EU always had this sort of open atmosphere, that as far as I can tell, mm-hmm. Because EU already has many countries that shares a currency. So mm-hmm. historically, right? So that's the EU. And when you travel across borders in the EU, there are no borders. You just drive on the highway, you end up in a different country. as you drive, and there's no line, there's no immigration officer you have to go through, etc. So the border aspect of it is already more blurred, and the European guys are have an easier mindset to adopt to a different currency. So there are a lot of differences, and also I think in the last 2 years there's also a lot more regulatory clarity in the EU. I think a lot of countries have issued different guidelines in the last 2 years. Yeah. So and some even gave like grandfather periods for this year and maybe sometime next year to get people to get the businesses accustomed into the new regulations. So I think all of those are really, really good. It's just I'm actually not an expert. I know a little bit in each place, but I rely on local experts like yourselves to sort of tell us what are the rules in each place. But I think there are very clear differences in how the regulations are shaping up in different countries now. I think initially for the next couple of years, the regulation is going to continue to be different. And once a certain type of regulations prove to be more beneficial to the development of the industry, hopefully other countries will start to copy because there is competition going on. Yeah. So it's good that now different countries have different sets of regulations and different focal points. And hopefully some of them will work well. Some of them probably will need to be improved or either tightened or relaxed or etc. So hopefully that will pan out in the next few years. Okay.
I'd love to respond to that, but nobody cares about what I think. They want to hear about you. So I'm not going to take the bait on that. I'm going to move on. I can talk about that for half an hour. So Binance will soon celebrate its 3rd anniversary. It's incredible that we're talking about all of this stuff and it's been 3 years, which is, time-wise nothing, right? I mean, it's such a short period of time. And many of us have experienced how the platform, Binance.com itself has evolved and the services have evolved. So over the last 3 years, what about Binance users has surprised you? So it could be trading activity, it could be response to a feature, like what's been unexpected?
To be honest, I think it's the level of support we got from our users. There are a large number of users who are really loyal and really strong supporters of Binance. Yeah, they're right. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I can at least give you 2. When we suffered a major hack, we lost $40 million. We suspended deposit and withdrawals for a week, and the day we turned it on, we got more deposit than withdrawals. So people that's how much people put their trust in us. So that's really, really rewarding. And there are many, many little things throughout the 3 years, and many people in the community are very supportive. We also have a very dedicated group of people called Binance Angels. They are not Binance employees. They do not get paid a salary. They don't get financial incentives. They're volunteers who just help with Binance communities and running various tasks, either managing the community or help us organize events or to help us do promotions, help us test new features, everything. And they are also some of our heavy users. So Binance team members are not actually allowed to trade too frequently, and they're allowed to hold cryptocurrencies, but they're not encouraged to trade. But the Binance Angels, because they don't have the access to inside information, they're actually just volunteers. And those guys spend a lot of time. The Binance Angels spend a lot of time helping with the overall Binance community. So that's really, really rewarding as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that's for me. That's especially like after the hack. That was even surprising to me. I thought we topped up our hard wallets to make sure people have enough. We don't run empty when people want to withdraw. But actually, people just deposited more. So I think basically. As long as we keep doing the right thing, as long as we keep being transparent, keep communicating with our users, we earn that trust, and they trust us, and they support our growth. So I think that's the really most rewarding thing for me personally and for our team.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting close to the end, and I know I want to leave some time for questions. So maybe I've got a quick fire round for you, but let's do one more question around DeFi, because I think that that's one of the topics that I'm seeing come up a lot. And I don't know if this is becoming more popular as conversation because of all of the QE activity that's happening from, central bank perspective, or if it's just, the latest, trend or fad. I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities, but with those opportunities comes risks, right? So I'd like to get your view on the DeFi. What's the deal with DeFi?
I think DeFi is just another one of those applications or innovations that people have brought into the crypto industry, and I think it's a really good thing. DeFi is at the early stage. So it's been about a year and a half. People talk about DeFi. DeFi is I think 2 years ago, DeFi is not even a word.
No.
So it is relatively new. So I think as all things new, there will be a high rate of failures. So there will be a number of DeFi projects which probably will fail. And some people will lose money over it. But that's just the nature of new things. But I think DeFi, the concept itself, will stay, and there will be a small number of successful projects that will stick around and that will last for a long time and could potentially be very valuable as well. And they will continue to provide a valuable service in this space. So I think DeFi, the concept works. The exact execution of it will need some experiment. Most projects will fail, just like any other new projects do, but some will succeed. So I think it's a really interesting space to keep an eye on, and I think it will also help the growth of our industry.
I think that is very true, and I think people used to ask me all the time, like, "What's the next killer app? Like, what's the killer app that's going to mainstream crypto?" And so I'll ask you, what's the killer app? And is it something related to DeFi where people can save or invest in a way that is completely decentralized? Is it just about them learning, or is it giving them a tool that makes it so easy that they just can't help but not?
Yeah, it's very difficult to predict which one is going to be the killer app. I mean, if you ask me at the end of 2016, what's going to be the killer app for the next, like, say, what we call pump, or the sort of the really crazy period in 2017, I would not have said ICOs. So even then, I would not know. So I think DeFi definitely has the potential to be a killer app. I think blockchain fundraising will continue to be a tool that people will use for the strong entrepreneurs. Whether it's going to be something else, e-commerce, payments, or other things. So all of those things are possible, but that's very hard to predict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, so quick fire round. I promised people that we would learn a little bit more about you personally, hopefully not too personal, but here we go. So of all the places you've lived, which is your favorite and why?
Vancouver. Vancouver, really nice weather. It's kind of warm not too cold in the winter, and really warm in the summer. Easy access to all the outdoor sports. I know windsurfing, scuba diving, skiing, snowboarding. So I enjoy all of those when I was younger. Well, I still do, but so I think Vancouver is definitely the best place to live of all the cities I've been to. But unfortunately, not so many jobs. So not such a strong sort of startup economy. So that's why I'm not there.
Expensive real estate too.
Yeah.
Okay. Where would you like to live that you haven't lived already?
I think I want to live it more. I want to spend more time in Europe, actually. So I've visited Europe many times already. Lived in a few different cities. All of the cities are really nice, really rich culture, deep, long history. Like buildings like 500 years old or 700 years old or 1,000 years old, like the parliament, right? So so I find that's really fascinating. So I would actually really hope to spend more time in just sort of touring through, like maybe each city a couple of months, sort of touring through Europe a bit more, like sort of really live there for a little while instead of just 2 days airport, hotel, airport.
Yeah. Speaking of never get back on a plane. All right, yeah. I'll hold you to that. Maybe we'll see you here a little bit more often. Okay, so flip-flops. I know you like them. I know there's a reason why. So tell us why flip-flops have changed your life.
I mean, flip-flops are just really more comfortable. So 99.9% of the time, I just really enjoy it. And this 0.1% of the time, I got rejected at a bunch of restaurants which wouldn't let me go in, or nightclubs and stuff like that. But I don't frequent those places that often anyway, so I don't miss that much. So, but there has been a handful of times where I couldn't get into a restaurant because I was wearing flip flops as well. But it's okay overall, though. It's really comfortable. I'm in them all the time.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite sport to play, and what's your favorite sport to watch?
I used to play volleyball a lot. When I was in high school, it was 15 hours a week, so 3 hours a day. So I was on the sort of school teams, etc. But I haven't played a lot of that after school. It's just hard to get a team together. I've tried a few different sports, but now my back's not so good. I'm still recovering from like a surgery. So I'm doing more of the physical therapy exercises. I got a water rolling machine at home now. So like I do some rolling just to strengthen my back. That's the extent of the sports I can do right now. I don't really watch sports that much, to be honest, unless it's like the finals of the World Cup or something like that. I'll watch with friends, but normally I don't really watch sports.
Okay. What's your favorite television show or movie?
There's a bunch of those. I like sort of recently watch Billings based on friends' recommendations. I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, Billings, the TV series.
Yeah,
I used to like the older ones. Like I like Friends a lot. Movies like Avatar, Battle Angels, Star Wars. I guess they're kind of all sort of in the sci-fi genre. I like a lot of movies actually. I prefer movies to TV series because it takes less time to watch.
Yeah, that's true. What entrepreneurial quality do you admire most?
I think in terms of entrepreneurial quality, I think there's two sides to one thing, which is I think just being real and also understanding the world as the world really is. So just being able to understand the world without any sort of illusions or misunderstandings. Understanding either the human psychology aspects of it, of how the societies work, how different things work is really, really important. Because when you don't get those things, your idea is not going to fit in. And you're going to make a lot of wrong decisions, or at least not optimum decisions. Yeah. And if you want to do that also, you have to be real with yourself. You got to understand yourself a lot. So you got to know your own strengths, your weaknesses, and be honest about it, be transparent about it, and so that other people can help you. So, for example, I know I have a lot of weaknesses, and I rely on other people for those areas. So, I think that's really, really important. All the other stuff, like the hard skills, everything else can be sort of acquired and trained. But just having that mindset and having that view is really important.
Yeah. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I think I got the best job in the world already. But if I can retire sometime, I might try like a traveling blogger. But I think I'll be terrible at it because I'm not a very picky lifestyle person, so I don't really know I can't really tell what's good taste versus bad taste. I live a pretty simple life, so I think I'll be pretty poor blogger. But I want to travel a bit more and sort of look at the world a bit more.
Okay. What profession would you not like to attempt?
Oh, that's the easy one. Like I think the worst profession is running for president. I think it's the worst job in the world. So not gonna do that.
And last question, what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh, that's pretty easy. I think I just want to be the guy who people know that have contributed to increasing the freedom of money for the world a little bit. So I just want to be helping with that a little bit. I think anytime that anytime as a society, anytime we have been able to increase freedom without just sacrificing other things, our lives as a civilization improved. Like freedom from slavery, freedom of speech, freedom of printing, freedom of data. So all of those things, whenever the freedom increased, our civilization advanced. So I think right now we have a unique opportunity to contribute to increasing the freedom of money. So which is what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you okay to take a question or two from the audience? We promised them that we would. So we've got about 8 minutes left. I'm just looking at them now, Coinscrummers. So give me a second to have a look. Susie, you can probably see them too, actually, if you hit Q&A.
Yeah, for the turn. Okay, yeah.
So
the first one. Okay.
You like the first one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The regulatory status one, yeah.
Oh wait, the first one. Are you guys officially regulated by the FCA now?
Yeah. Well, I think, okay. You should probably look at the other end, but that's okay
right.
too. I think you can probably answer this better than I do. But from what I know is we did merge with, we did partner with a local, fully regulated entity.
Yeah.
So yes, the short answer is yes. We are fully. Binance UK is fully regulated by the FCA.
Yes, that is true. So maybe you meant, what product enhancements do you have planned for institutional investors and asset managers?
Okay, I think we're seeing a different order, but that's okay too. And yeah, so we do have a lot of features there. I think the Binance APIs are really by far the most stable and the fastest API in the industry. We continue to add more features to it. I think we also have a couple of different ideas sort of in the mid to long term. We have a new way of doing custody of coins that have a much more enhanced security measures involving multiple signatories, etc., which could be very fit for institutional participation. So there's a lot of those things in the works. I don't want to say too much because anything I say kind of builds up the expectation. We typically like to we'll only announce when we're really close to release.
Yeah.
But we are working on a number of key features for to help make it easier for institutional investors to come in.
Okay. Why did Binance decide to develop Binance Smart Chain rather than building on an existing network like Ethereum? How does that impact adoption?
Yeah, so I think basically we want to throw our hat. So I believe that blockchain technology is the future. So we want to continually invest in the development of blockchain technologies. So that's why we have Binance Chain. We also have Binance Smart Chain. So it's really a team decision to do that. Why don't we use Ethereum? I think Ethereum has a core team working on Ethereum, and the current Ethereum version, I guess what we call 1.0, has some scalability issues, which they're trying to solve with Ethereum 2.0. And we want to build a really fast chain. So we want to build a high performance, high throughput blockchain that. Because one of our key apps, our native apps on the Binance chain is the Binance DEX, which for a trading exchange, it needs to be high performance. So that's one of the key reasons why we sort of have our own chain. And then the Binance Smart Chain is kind of an evolution on top of that. People were asking for smart contract features on our chain, and they want that to be compatible with the Ethereum. So that's what the team built. So yeah, that's pretty much the short answer to that.
Okay. What are your plans for the Middle East?
We don't have a lot of plans per se. So we are not really a top-down planning-driven organization. So it's really optimistic. So we are open to working with more partners in the Middle East to establish more local presence there. So typically, the current approach we typically take is look for local partners that can provide the licensing and fiat channels, and then we deploy our technology. So that usually typically is that type of partnership. So yeah, we are looking at Middle East as well. So hopefully we'll get there soon.
Okay. Let's see. Just so you know, people think that flip-flops are a great idea for swag. You know how much we love swag over here, CZ. So,
yes, absolutely.
So maybe,
which I'm wearing one.
Maybe we should think about getting some Binance flip-flops. Okay. Let's see. What do you think about governance and blockchain in the blockchain industry? That's all it says, but I guess we're talking about, just self-regulation and project governance potentially. Answer that question however you interpret it.
Sure. I think there's a couple of aspects to it. There's the sort of industry players and how we self-regulate, how we work with policymakers in different regions in the world, and we want to be as proactive as we can about it. Mm-hmm. We also want to apply common sense and always do the right thing. So we want to fight fraud. We want to prevent money laundering. All of this sort of common sense practices. We have very open dialogues we have open dialogues with a number of regulators around the world, and we want to have more of those. So to teach them about, or at least to communicate what we think are some of the difficulties we face and what we like the regulations to shape up, and also understand their sort of thinking, their approaches, etc. On the flip side, there's also the question may also indicate that what do we view like different central banks or governments running blockchain experiments or running blockchain pilots. Mm-hmm. I think, to be honest, I think most of those projects will be more or less centralized at the beginning, but it's a great step to take. So we can't expect them to sort of take one giant leap and become fully decentralized. That's not going to happen. But having a central bank issuing a digital currency is already a huge step. Even if it's just a digital version of blockchainized version of a traditional currency, that's probably usually better than any stablecoin that we can make. And also, it also has a educational aspect to it. The government will be educating a lot of their population about blockchain and digital currencies. So that's always a good thing. So I'm of the philosophy, I encourage any participation in the blockchain space. And I also encourage all the blockchain players to be very cooperative and forthcoming towards working with regulators.
Okay. This question sounds like it's about me, but it's really not. How do you convince high-quality staff with previous big bank experience, like Teana and Josh Goodbody, to buy into the crypto dream? Well, he didn't have to convince me. I'd already bought in. Do you have the same profile of people interested in joining Binance in other regions?
Yes. So so the short answer is we don't really convince people. So one of the hiring criteria for Binance is that I rarely convince somebody to join the blockchain industry, especially not somebody who we want to bring onto Binance. The Binance team is very passionate. They all want to join Binance. They're all already in this industry, so they do not need convincing. I do try to convince non-industry people to join the industry, but I don't want them to join our organization because we want people who are very passionate. And luckily that we have, there is enough talent. There's more than enough talent. Who wants to join the space, that we have a very large pool of talented people to choose the best people. So that's no longer a problem. So that's one of the hiring criteria we have.
Great. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one or two more if we're quick. What are your thoughts on digital securities? Do you think all securities will be built on DLT tech in the future?
That's a broad one. I think security is a really broad topic. I wouldn't say all securities are. I wouldn't say DLT or blockchain is going to solve all security problems. That's just not going to happen. Security has many different aspects. There's a technology aspect. There's a technical aspect of it. Network aspect of it. There's business security. There's the employee or human security. There's physical security. There's a lot of different aspects to security. So to get something to be secure, there's also never 100% security. I mean, if Earth gets hit by an asteroid, none of our security is going to prevent that. So I think basically, I wouldn't say one thing is going to solve all security issues, but I think the DLT blockchain technology do solve a lot of the traditional trust non-security issues. I think that's what blockchain solves.
Okay, last question. What do you think will be the key success for Binance in the UK market?
I think it's pretty simple. There's no magic formula. We just got to provide a really easy to use platform, really stable, high liquidity, so that people get the best prices when they want to buy, and low fees. And as long as we continue to do that, we will slowly gain support and gain users. It's basically as simple as that, or as difficult as that. So that's what we aim to do.
Okay. So just an update on the flip-flops. Everybody says that they would proudly wear the flip-flops. So if you're looking for UK brand placement, supply the people with flip-flops.
We've got them live already. We've tokenized them, and you can actually lend them out on Compound now for a 25% annual yield on your flip-flops. So, you heard it here first. Thanks for the inspiration, CZ. But that was
lend 4 pairs.
That was a fantastic.
If you lend 4 pairs,
yeah,
you get 1 pair back in a year, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep stacking those flip-flops. But look, guys, thank you so much, CZ, for joining us. The comments on the chat and some private messages I've got, everyone found it to be a really enjoyable conversation. So really appreciate you taking the time. There will be an edited version on the Coinscrum Market Show this week, and we'll have a full replay posted on our YouTube channel at the end of the week. So hopefully many more people will get to listen in and enjoy that conversation. So thanks, Teana, as well for hosting, and thanks everyone for taking time out of your busy days to watch. And we'll see you all again.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Teana. And thanks to everyone asking flip-flops and supporting the conversation. Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Guys, have a good day.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.